Hello and welcome to my IB MYP Upper St. Clair High School International Baccalaureate Middle Years Program. I'm following this project Aurora. My name is Ben Waldron. I don't know what the word count is. It's gonna be a 15-minute video, so here we go. So I wanted to make a game in Unity to begin with, but I did not have the patience or time commitment that I needed to actually execute this. So I took the MIP project as a challenge to myself to try and do it. So just started, basically. I started doing it. My table of contents will be I'll try and do chapters on the video itself. If I can't do that, it'll be in the description. It'll just be timestamps. The body of the report is this, and the works cited page will also be in the descriptions. It'll be links to these videos and stuff that I used, as well as the Unity documentation itself. So, yeah, I wanted to make this start off with, but I did not actually have the patience to do it. So here we are, because I forced myself to do it with this project. The goal of the project was to make a very, very basic framework to make a game off of. I picked an FPS because it's simple and you can do a lot with it in general. So my goal for this project was to just make something and that can give someone happiness, I guess. Personally, me, was to progress myself as a person, but so yeah, I've met my goal. I've got my framework. I can do basically whatever I want with it with only a few minor changes, which are piece by piece. So, making new stuff, I'd have to change a few things, like make a new script for it, each individual thing, if I want to do certain stuff with it, but I'll explain that later. And I just determined those specifications because I knew that I would not have enough time to make the perfect game that I wanted to make, so I made what I could, and I made a stepping stone to that point. So the sources that I used were, I started off with the Unity manual, which I realized wasn't very helpful. So I started with this Unity basic weapon system tutorial because I started off with a movement system tutorial, which I believe has been taken down and I can't find it. I will keep looking for it and hopefully have it in the description, but if I don't, that's why. So I started with this basic weapon tutorial, and it was very helpful by play. It's 10 minutes long. It's very nice, and it taught me a lot. It taught me a lot about how to have values and scripts interact with each other. It also taught me how to use raycasts, which I've been using a lot. It taught me how to basically just set up a whole thing so that it was playable and it wasn't just like an empty screen. It was very, very helpful. Extremely helpful. And then I moved on to some muzzle flash to add a little bit of flair to the game. It was very helpful because I got to understand the particle system and scripts even better. I moved to aim down sights, which I didn't get fixed until very recently, and that involved the alert function, which I needed help to understand because it's very confusing how it's explained. And finally, I used assets I had, and I made some inverse kinematics animations that were extremely basic. And then I also took a bunch of assets off the Unity asset store that were free. And I'll have all those linked. I'll have those linked as well. Okay, so I can't go into too much detail about these sources because I use them in very broad terms. I use them mainly to increase my understanding of Unity itself and its scripting capabilities, and like to understand how they interact with each other, but I have I basically started off by almost copy and pasting what the person had and reading through it on my own to understand it better so that I could morph it into what I needed it to be. So this is what I ended up doing is I took this damageable property. Like, so this is just a one use case, I guess, that I've used this in that was very helpful. So I grabbed my damageable property, right? So this is a different script, which I don't have open right now. Huh. Actually, it should be in target. One second. Scriptable objects. Target. Yes, here we go. So target itself is ID damageable. So I made an interface called damageable, and we basically like I can implement that into other cases. And so I did the exact same thing with my button script. Me button button handler. Okay, this is not okay. Yeah. So I made another class, ID interactable, or interface, sorry. And every time that ID interactable is called on something, it can do this. And I use the raycasts that I learned from making this gun to literally just do the exact same thing, but under a different keybind and under, I believe actually I did that in this. No. Player fire start was the one that did. Yeah, so if input get key down and physics raycast, and then I find the ID interactable module in that thing, if it has one, and then I run its use button script, which on gun equip trigger is this, and on respawn enemies is this, right? So I took what I learned from other stuff, and I took what I learned from, if we're talking specifically about the gun class here, I took what I learned from that, and I took the parts of it that I needed, and I applied it to other stuff. That is what I did with all of my sources, essentially. All right. So stuff that I've done entirely. I have done most of the things I set out to do entirely in like completely, and I'm very satisfied with that. There are some things though that I haven't done completely that I really wanted to do completely, but it's gonna take time to do that, and I recognize that. For example, the inventory system. I can think of how to do it, but the implementation and how the user would interact with it are things that are passing by me at the moment. So I have yet to try and implement it because I do not see a reason to do so if it's not going to be applied by the player. I've also implemented a health system for the player that isn't technically fully working because there's nothing that can damage it, but that's a very simple thing to fix, right? It's not completely implemented, but I can fix that pretty easy. So things that have prevented me from doing this entirely is just like time. Like I don't feel like I have enough time to really work on this. I mean, I have all the time I want, but like in my head, I think this takes a lot of time. In reality, it doesn't take as much time as I think it does. Um, but here for real quick going back, as evidence for stuff that I've completed entirely, I've completed my ADS system, I've completed modular guns, I've completed an AI thing, I've completed inverse kinematics, I've completed guns working, I've completed the health bar, even though it doesn't really work, and like movement, right? And some GUI things. So I've completed a lot. I've come very, very far, but like still um the um the reloading system is not in the state I'd want it to be in because you can't really regain ammo without restarting it, but something I gotta live with for right now. The physics system feels a little janky. It's just working with it and Unity's system. Um, Other than that, I'm pretty satisfied with my goals. I feel like I've done pretty well goal wise. Uh, since I didn't really set any concrete or very many concrete goals, because like I have an environment to work in, I have stuff to expand very easily. But since I don't feel like I've set any super concrete goals. I don't entirely know what to meet because I so including all that, I do feel like I've done a lot, and I feel like this has made me happier and made me grow as a person because I understand Unity a lot more fully now, which will in the future allow me to make more and probably better stuff than this. But um, since I also feel more confident with programming and scripting in general, um, and I feel like yeah, my global context has been met. Other than that, Project Aurora is still most definitely under development, and I'll continue working on it, and I'll do what I can to meet future goals on it.